And yet again, the Washington Commanders are continuing to get better here throughout NFL free agency. And while everyone else is sleeping, scouting, they're doing both. They're going out, bringing in some low-key free agents and bringing in some guys that could possibly be day one impactful players for next season. And you got to give credit. Dan Quinn, Adam Peters, these guys over in Washington, they're not messing around. They are ready to turn this football team around. But in this video, I want to cover the two signings they made yesterday. One of them was Mykal Walker. Going to talk a little bit about him. And then they just announced here 34 minutes ago that they signed D lineman Haggai Chisom Ndubuidi. I don't know if I said that right. Please comment down below how to say his name. I do not want to butcher his name every single time, but he is a part of the NFL's International Player Pathway Program. So we're going to discuss him and Mykal Walker in this video. Before we jump in though, do me a big favor, comment down below a letter grade so far for the Commanders offseason. Guys, they've brought in 11 new starters to this team, and you know, Zacchaeus, Nick Allegretti, Tyler B coming over from the Dallas Cowboys, a starting center, a starting tight end, Zach Ertz, Austin Eckler, Dorrance Armstrong, Cleveland Farrell, Dante Fowler, Bobby Wagner, Frankie Louvu, you know, Michael Davis, Jeremy Chinn, James Pierre, right? This team has been absolutely going crazy this offseason, and we're going to break it all down in this video. So also subscribe if you're new. It's free. It doesn't cost anything. But let's get right into the first two new free agent signings of the Commanders. Right when I figured out that the Washington Commanders would hire Dan Quinn, I knew right off the bat they were going to be able to bring free agents in. He is such a player's coach, and players want to run through a wall for Dan Quinn. So right away I knew coming into free agency, the Commanders were going to be big-time spenders. And I was right, but I was also wrong. They have not made any bad moves. You know, usually when a team like the Commanders have a ton of cap space, they go out there and sign 7 guys to max contracts that they think could be day one starters. However, instead of doing that, they bring in a bunch of guys who can be day one starters for, you know, not too big of a contract, but also add, you know, and I want to be clear here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, almost like 8 depth players as well, and we can go through them if you guys want. Michael Dieter, their backup center, Jeremy Nichols, Jeff Driscoll, the quarterback they just signed a couple of days ago, Dante Fowler or Cleveland Farrell, one of those guys will come off the bench, Anthony Pittman from Detroit, Mykal Walker, James Pierre, potentially Jeremy Chinn. I think he could start, but we'll see what happens with him. Noah Igbinoghene. I mean, they brought in so much depth, but also so many starters, like we said at the beginning of the video. This team has been insane. This team has continued to make moves, and now you look at the 2 guys they just brought in. I think these guys could be impactful players as well. Now let's talk about a little bit about Mykal Walker to start off this video. Now, Mykal Walker is one of the most interesting free agents that were available right now. He's a linebacker, got very, very quick feet, very fast, but also is a pretty short tackler. Back in 2022, guys, was his breakout season with the Atlanta Falcons. Has been in the NFL for about 4 seasons because he was drafted in the 4th round back in 2020 to Atlanta. He's only 26 years old, 6'3", 230 pounds. But like I said, in 2022, finally had that breakout type of season. 107 tackles, 56 of those were solo. Also brought in a sack, a forced fumble, 2 interceptions, as well as 6 pass deflections as well. And that's not it. Over his career, over 220 tackles, 2 forced fumbles, 4 interceptions, and a touchdown as well. Mykal Walker is a guy that will be able to fit right into this defense, right? You talk about the linebacker room right now. You have Bobby Wagner, who's going to play that middle, as well as Frankie Louvu as well, who can do multiple different things in terms of getting to the quarterback, but also can, you know, be a run stopper, and even can drop into pass coverage a little bit as well. Now, obviously in the NFL, you need depth. Now, the number one thing that you'll realize about Dan Quinn, you know, not really knowing too much about him, is he is a guy that is going to make every single player get to their top potential, and that is something you need to see, especially over here in Washington, where they struggle to find that, right? Now, Mykal Walker is a guy that, you know, he's not going to be a day one starter. He's not going to come over here and, you know, give you all the snaps on defense, but he will be someone who could be a great spot start. He can be potentially a good starter if you need him to be. For example, if a Bobby Wagner needs to miss like 4 or 5 games, I think he could step right in and be a phenomenal player for you. I mean, last season didn't have the best season in the world, only played in 8 games, 33 tackles, right? But I think at the end of the day, if he gets a starting workload, he is going to give you starter production. Now with that being said, I like what they're doing. Mykal Walker, still young, still developing, but also fits into a Dan Quinn defense here, who has been one of the best defensive coordinators over the past couple of years, right? And then you add a guy like Whitt Jr to the defensive coordinator room. I mean, I think this defense is going to take major jumps for next season. Not only can he be really, really good, but the potential of this unit is going to be insane. Now guys, before we get any further into the video, before we break down Mykal Walker's strengths and also Haggai, the other guy who joined the team as well, do me a big favor, hit that like button. If this video gets up to 400 likes, I'll be posting another full breakdown of the Washington Commanders offseason, as well as a video hinting at what they're going to do in the NFL draft. But before we get back into the video, subscribe if you're new, it's free, doesn't cost anything to subscribe. But now, with that being said, let's jump right back in. Now, just to go over some of his major strengths at the NFL level, you look at, he can play inside, he can play a little bit of outside at stand-up edge, not going to really thrive in that position, but can kind of play both. So right away, you see the versatility with Mykal Walker. He has, above average field awareness. He's knowing what's going on in front of him, studies film a lot, right? Really deep dives into, NFL plays and what the opposing team wants to run. So I think that is a very good plus in itself. He shows recognition of block schemes in front of him, so that's why he can play on the edge, because he understands what the offensive line wants to do and how they want to block for the quarterback, so he gets around them so easily, right? He has a good finish rate as a tackler, which is good. Reads quarterback's eyes in zone coverage, which is another reason why he can drop back into coverage. Plays those very well, can play the passing windows from drop zones, and like I said, very quick on his feet, very nimble, very fast, but also very high IQ player. I love this signing of Mykal Walker. I think he's gonna fit right in. When you look at their defense last year, they ranked number 26 in yards allowed per rush, number 27 in rush yards allowed per game, and also passing wise, right, they rank number 30 in interception percentage. Mykal Walker's a guy who has 4 interceptions in 4 seasons, so obviously he can give you some of that. They also rank number 32 in pass yards per game, number 31 in yards allowed per pass. Their defense needed to get better, and I think they're making the right moves and building a culture over here in Washington. But that wasn't the only move they made. Let's talk about the other guy. Now, this next signing is a very, very interesting one. According to the Washington Commanders Twitter page, or X page, whatever you want to call it, they have officially signed Haggai Chisom. I'm not even going to try to butcher his last name again, but this is a very intriguing signing in my opinion. Obviously, a part of the International Player Pathway Program. So let's deep dive a little bit about him and what he could potentially bring to this team next season. Now, Haggai is a very interesting player. I mean, he is 6'6", 298 pounds, entering his second year in the NFL. Now, he originally joined the Arizona Cardinals back in 2022, and then the Denver Broncos this past season as a part of the NFL's International Player Pathway Program. He also had a stint in the UFL with the San Antonio Rams in 2023 before now joining Washington. In 2023, Chisom appeared in a single preseason game with the Broncos where he did record 2 tackles, and he served on the practice squad for the remainder of the season. So good enough to be on the practice squad, that is actually saying a lot. Now, during his time with the Cardinals back in 2022, he actually was an offensive lineman. So right away, you look at Chisom and you say, okay, so he's a guy that brings some versatility. Not only, and we have not seen this in the NFL in a very long time, a guy who could play O-line, but a guy who can also play D-line as well, right? Now, this is a guy who, is very intriguing, right? I don't think he's going to obviously be someone who steps in right away and becomes a big-time contributor, but I think he has potential to be used right with Dan Quinn. Now, obviously, he's from Nigeria. He grew up playing soccer and basketball, but didn't know what football was until he discovered it on YouTube. And, you know, he's played on the Broncos, played on the Cardinals, so he obviously has a little bit of experience in the NFL now. But it wasn't until 2021 where he started playing, right? This is incredible. And now suddenly he's in the NFL. And, you know, I'm very intrigued. He's the type of guy that I think has a ton of potential. You look at his height, his size, his speed, his quickness, the rare combination of skill set that he has, right? I think he's a player that, if used right, could become a very solid player at the NFL level. And then you talk about Dan Quinn. You talk about Joe Whitt. You talk about the guys they have on defense, you know, coaching this team. Dude, he could come in here right away and become a very solid player, or even a rotational piece on the O-line or the D-line. Talk about the versatility and the skill set he has, man. I'm excited to see what he can do. But with that being said, let me know what you guys think down below. Hit the like button, subscribe if you're new, join the family. A full Commanders breakdown will be dropping soon about their draft strategy and maybe even a little bit more. So make sure you guys join the family, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.